Hello, hello, welcome. So we're all familiar with this idea of marital status. You go to an office anywhere, they ask you to fill out a form. First question they ask you is your marital status. You're single, married, divorced, separated, widowed, that kind of thing. But that piece of information may have relevance in certain contexts, but from the perspective of your quality of life, what's much more important than that is your connection status, as we call it. And there are only four possibilities in that case. Regardless of your marital status, you could be single, you could be married, divorced, widowed, you could be in any of those marital status, but your connection status can be one of joy. You can be open, and I'll explain this to you: joy, open, rift, or pain. Let me tell you. So, single people, they could be in a lot of pain. They're hurting. They are single, but they resent being single. They hate the fact that there are no good men out there, no good women out there. They're in pain. They're not open. They're not ready. So, the ready state, that open state, is perhaps you don't have a partner, you don't have a romantic partner, you don't have a person in your life, but you are in a good spot, you're in a good space, and you're open to all of the love that life has to offer you. So open is the first connection status. You're open to what life has to offer, what the universe has to offer you. Suppose you do connect with somebody. Now, you can be in joy, right? Joy is that state of abundance, joy, flow, and you could actually be single and enjoy. But oftentimes we associate that state with being in love with somebody else. Again, I want to differentiate between marital status and connection status. One is an internal state, the other is an external state. So externally, you could be single, married, widowed, divorced, that kind of thing. Internally, you're going to be either open, ready, open, you're going to be in joy, or you're going to be in pain. Whether you are single, married, divorced, you could be in deep pain inside. Or you could be in a position of rift, what I call rift, or conflict. Now, conflict is interesting because you can be in conflict with yourself, you're fighting with yourself, you despise yourself, all the mistakes you made, that kind of thing, so you're in a fight with yourself. Rift is like there's a break, there's a separation there. You see this often in couples where they're in rift state, but they're either not talking or they're arguing too much and bickering too much. So conflict, a lot of conflict, and conflict can be active or passive. Active conflict is bickering and arguing. Passive conflict is we ignore each other. So that state of conflict, I call it rift, because there's somebody there, but we're completely disconnected and away from that person. Now, these four connection states, they're not necessarily only in reference to another human being. They start with us inside. Your first relationship is with yourself. In fact, when a person comes to see me and they're single, looking for a partner, the first thing we have to do is get them to get in touch with themselves. If they have a partner and it's not working out for them, the first thing that we do is help them connect with themselves. So we have to go from a state of rift, pain, already open, right, to a state of joy internally first, so that the connection with another human being, which is the biggest gift any human being can have, can happen. But without that inner connection, then the connection with another person will never work out long term, because it becomes about getting from them what we're lacking within. Now, I don't mean to suggest, there's a whole movement out there, and I think it's mostly a misunderstanding of these philosophical ideas, but this whole idea that people are independent and you have to find everything within, I think that that's somewhat of an exaggeration and a misunderstanding. We're all interdependent, and none of us can be completely fulfilled alone. I think that creating connections with other human beings is absolutely critical to the quality of your life. But what I am saying is that if you rely exclusively on the connection with another human being in order to satisfy that internal quest that we all have for intimacy and stability, then we're going to have a problem there. Sooner or later, it fractures. So what we do is we discover that intimacy with ourselves, we discover that stability within ourselves, and then the connection with another person who also feels intimate with themselves and stable within themselves, then that connection can be very fruitful. All right? That's what this work is all about. Creating that state of joy within so that we can connect without. In other words, we create a connection inside of us so that we can connect with another human being on the outside of us. And this applies to people who are single, to people who are coupled or married or have a partner, and also to parents attempting to connect with their children and teenagers in particular. I'm a parent, and I can tell you I've seen a ton of parents over the years at the office, and when the kids are young and they're very malleable and you basically tell them what to believe, what to think, what to say, what to do, and they essentially comply because they're very young. But once they hit puberty, and you may remember doing the same thing, I certainly do, what happens is we develop a mind of our own. We become a little rebellious because we want to assert our independence of thought, at least if not financially yet. We break that connection with our parents, and parents suffer quite a bit. And in some cases, they won't tell you this, and you won't tell anybody this, but they tell me at the office in private, they resent their kids. They feel like they lost their kids. They no longer have a kid. And so that resentment that the parent oftentimes feels. Now, I know, if you go to a cocktail party tonight and you say, oh, Flavio says that I resent my kids, people are going to think I'm crazy. But look, I've done 44,000 sessions. What I'm telling you is that it's at a deep unconscious level. The kid has become rebellious and very difficult. So there's resentment there. There's pain in the relationship with the teenager. So when we work on reconnecting parents and children, I have this program called Tremendous Teens. And the idea of reconnecting is to first connect within ourselves. The same thing applies as it does to a romantic partner. It's a very different kind of relationship, but the mechanics of the connection is the same. In order to connect with someone else, we've got to connect with ourselves first. So I work with this idea of connection, and we either connect, at work to make money. We have to connect with other people. We have to connect with our bodies to be healthy, and we have to connect with other human beings with various degrees of intimacy so that we can be a complete human being. For the past number of years, I've been working on the relationship part of it with other human beings, not so much on the wealth and on the health anymore. I used to do more of that, but now I kind of focus on that. And we find that most people struggle in those two areas, primarily the romantic part and the children part. It's very difficult, particularly nowadays with all the, with everything that's going on for a teenager in terms of social media and all that. It's difficult to connect with them. So I'm here to serve and to show you that when you connect with yourself, it becomes easier to connect with others. All right? So I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation with you.